Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. This is our off-air podcast that we do 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Also, you can check out Miguel and Holly Uncensored Sunday sessions that we now have. And Kelvin,
yes,
you're up this week.
I am.
What did you do?
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I thought me launching Los Yappers was so I wouldn't have to do Sunday sessions anymore, because I felt like you did this project to encourage us to do our own projects. So I thought, all right, well, I'm not going to be in rotation anymore.
That's not how the show works, girl.
Well, yeah. Now I found out. I looked around and found out.
I bet you, though, when Miguel launches his own podcast, we're not going to do Sunday sessions no more.
Oh, absolutely not. No, because that is separate. Those are separate things. Like if you are in a boy band or a girl band and you do your solo project, that doesn't count for an album with the record company for the group. That's a separate deal you have.
They don't do it at the same time, though, baby girl.
Well, that's a band. This is a radio show.
But the podcast that I'm doing, like, that's what I would want to do. We're not going to come up with something else?
Huh.
Figure it out, y'all.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
No, you didn't. No, we didn't talk about all this.
Did I start this?
Look at
Oops.
This is to expand Miguel and Holly Uncensored, to get more things, to get more localized for each of us. And then hopefully you do your own thing separate from that. So if you wanted to take the concept of what you're doing now and morph it into what you want your separate thing to be, get it. But then on the Sunday sessions, you're going to disappoint the Platypus Posse like that? Because they're looking.
They get 3 episodes every week.
What in the guilt trip are you doing right now?
It's not adding up, girl. You're trying to loophole around, but we
Ain't
got you,
no
Always
bitch.
with a loophole.
We
Ain't no
got you,
loophole.
bitch.
No, but I did want
Anyway.
to play. Hold on. We've been asking Bossman Trevor to get us an intro for the Sunday session.
I haven't listened to this.
I want to listen together.
Okay.
Hold on.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored presents Sunday Sessions.
Hello. This is Miguel.
Who was that voice man?
That's the regular one we
Yeah.
have.
What, he put his sexy voice on?
I feel like there should be some moans in the background.
I know. What do we do? It's Sunday. That's the Lord's day.
Not in my house, girl. That's the relaxing day. I just want to hear it one more time.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored presents Sunday Sessions.
Yeah, welcome.
Yes, that's what it's given. That is what
To me,
given.
it's wow. So,
Wow.
Kelvin, are you using that this Sunday for yours?
Yes, I am. So, because this was last minute for my episode, I am going to release the roast. However, I'm going to eliminate every single name, even certain jokes that doesn't really matter if you know the names. I don't want there to be a process of elimination. I'm still going to bleep out every single name out of respect for the friends.
Yes.
But what I really liked about when we recorded that is that you guys were on it and you guys were able to kind of give me, some feedback on whether the jokes were good or not. So you'll be able to hear how that roast that happened back in February, how Miguel and Holly reacted, if they thought I was good or not.
I don't even remember, so I'm excited to
Great.
Listen back to it.
I
and
don't
see.
remember either. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. And then Shelby said, y'all are matching in white. Was this planned? Y'all look so cute. Thank you.
Not planned.
It was not.
It's never planned when sometimes we all match, and it's just surprisingly we on the same wavelength.
I do want some feedback though, because the outfit I have on, Peloton, they actually have some good clothes, and they had a big 40 to 70% off sale a couple of weeks ago. So I kind of oops. Sorry, I took them off you can see them on the TV.
The screen.
And so I bought this thinking I was like, okay, this whole thing is $40. I don't have any outfits like this, and this is kind of out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so I just bought it, forgot about it, and then I'm like, so what do y'all think? It's a white jumpsuit, basically, or sweatsuit.
It's like a little jogging suit.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think you look cozy.
Yes.
I think you look more casual. One thing, if you don't know about Miguel, if you've never seen the video, is that he always has a short sleeve button up, some nice Lululemon pants, I'm assuming, some nice
Or
casual pants
jeans.
or jeans. And he looks, ready to work.
Yes, this is a workhorse right here.
Yes, this is casual, relaxed, cozy.
Okay.
About to
It
play
would
some
be on a
tennis.
Friday. Yes.
Yes. So I've had 2 interesting conversations today in the break room here at iHeartMedia.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say who, but one of our coworkers saw my outfit and he goes, "Ooh, that looks nice. Looks like you're ready to go to a Diddy party." And I was like,
No, we don't say that no more.
"What?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "Yeah, what's that song without wearing white Diddy and Biggie?" And I was like, "I don't remember."
You're
And
like,
then-
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about who.
And then like all the like younger salespeople and like especially the 2 black ones, Cameron and Brent, they were like, "What?" And I was like,
How old is this person?
"Oh, I don't want to."
Older?
Yes, they are not in their 40s. They're probably in their 50s.
Okay.
Got it.
They don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know. Oh, this is why you sometimes have to keep up with pop culture.
I
Because
was
then you'd be making awful references.
It was so awkward the way he said it so loudly, and he was like, "You look like you're going to a Diddy party."
And I know what your face was like.
And then he was like, and then it was that awkward. He was like, "What's that song? The video where they're all wearing white and Biggie
You're
and,
like,
and Diddy?" And I was just like, "I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember."
You're like, I don't even know
remember, I
who
don't
you're
wanna
talking
remember.
about. I don't even know what that name is.
Yeah.
Can we just? What are you doing this weekend?
So they left to go to the bathroom. So
Oh dear Lord.
that was first awkward thing today in the break room. Second
Yes.
thing, just now before we started the podcast,
Mhm.
I was talking to Woody from Woody and Wilcox on our sister station, The End. They're an
Mhm.
alternative station here in Charlotte. And he was like, "Well, what do you got planned this weekend?" And I was like, "Not much, because of Love and Life Music Fest next weekend. So I'm trying to keep it low key to get some rest." And I was like,
Mhm.
"What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm driving for a wedding this weekend." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Who's getting married?" And he was like, "My daughter's dog." And I said, "I'm sorry, what?"
What now? Was he being silly?
Nope. So his daughter is in college, and her daughter's dog met another dog, and they're having a ceremony this weekend, and
No.
he's going to Western North Carolina to attend the dog's wedding.
Why is this the second time I've heard of this?
What?
I have
What?
somebody
Why
else,
is it?
a mutual friend of ours, posted on their story and had 2, like, was holding the 2 dogs, and they were like, "No other wedding I would attend for these 2 dogs."
I'm sorry though. I can't with this. This is where we've lost the plot as a society.
No,
truly.
we lost it a long time.
I mean, yes, we did, but like this is a very gleaming, glaring, obvious. First of all, y'all don't have nothing better to spend your money on. Second of all, how do you really know that those dogs want to be married?
And, because dogs just hump other dogs without, asking consent. So
How do you know? Has the dog given consent to this wedding? Maybe they're just BFFs.
they're just sniffing butts. I don't know. Woody then said that surprisingly, there are a lot of dog wedding things that you can find on Chewy,
Yes.
No, I thought those are for like if the dog is going to be part of the human's wedding.
and also for their own weddings
their
as
own.
well. Yeah.
Jesus.
So he said
H.
if you go to chewy.com, they have all sorts of dog wedding paraphernalia that you can get. And he said that one of the things, it's like the dog's holding a bouquet, but it looks like human hands are around it that you just tied around the dog. And I was like, I have never been more fascinated at a conversation in the break room than right now.
But hold on.
Mhm.
There's so many things. So this is Woody of Woody and Wilcox, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is a good old Southern man.
Yes.
What was his tone when he was telling you about the dog wedding?
So here's the great thing about Woody from Woody and Wilcox is he's so excitable. And I think it's, well, I don't want to say unless it's not public knowledge. Well, no, it is. It is. He's talked about it. His kids are a part of the LGBTQ.
I did know this.
And so he's very like accepting and open, and he had on his
Yeah.
proud dad shirt on.
right.
So he's just like, if she's into it, I'm into it. So let's go.
Yeah.
He's about it.
He's so
He's about
sweet.
that life.
Okay,
He's
so
super
he
sweet.
there was no part of at any part that he was just like, yeah.
No.
Okay, good
Now,
for him because
apparently-
I don't know that I'd be able to keep my face to myself.
They talked about it on their show today, and apparently Wilcox and Chelsea were not about it. And so he was
Yeah.
like, they kind of raked me over the coals this morning on the show. And I was like, well, that makes sense because I would do the same thing.
Well, yes,
Um,
and their show is what their show is. I mean,
Right. So, I mean, but if Kelvin or you, Holly, did that on the show, I would be like, I'm sorry, what the fuck?
But would you
We're-
come? I feel like you'd come for the content. You would have come because you actually support it.
Oh, girl, I would come in a heartbeat because I know that I'd be going viral on TikTok and Instagram with my
For the
commentary
content.
on a dog's wedding.
We were gonna have a birthday party for Jimbo.
no, I can understand dog birthdays because it's really for the owner. It's for the owner. You're gonna get together with your friends and bring other dogs that your dog gets along with. It's fine. The dog doesn't know what's going on other than it's getting extra treats that day and it's a happy day. You're
Look, this dog has a white dress.
not in pose, like looking off in the distance.
That's so beautiful. I'm here for this. I know y'all are not here for it, but I think it's super
No.
fucking cute.
Wait, are you gonna marry off Jimbo?
I would. And you know who he truly had a really great connection with? My previous neighbor in Uptown when I lived there.
Mm-hmm.
It was this beautiful black lab dog, and they would hang out every single day. They had an incredible bond. They always got along with each other. They never snipped at each other. I would have a gay wedding for them.
Okay.
But how do you know that they're gay?
How do we know any of us are gay?
How do we know the dog is gay? Because he can't tell you I like dude dogs.
He licked the other dog's booty hole.
Well, they do that for all of them. Well, maybe he's bisexual. I don't know.
Right. He's
Just-
pan.
Oh my god.
pan.
You guys,
Mhm.
you
He's
can't be
pan.
speaking for people.
Right. And I think Shelby's asking a great question. Do they have a honeymoon? What about a garter?
Every day is their honeymoon. They don't pay rent. They get fed every day. They
Every
get walked every
fucking
day. They're good.
Mhm,
Every day is a
mhm,
honeymoon.
That's like, okay, so Teddy is our dog, and we consider him to have a best friend in Scott and Monica's dog. So
Mhm.
Scott and Monica, of course, Scott, our former producer from when we used to work in Tampa, has his own show now, whatever. So we still live by them, and they have a dog, Coco, and Teddy and Coco are just the bestest BFFs. Like they never fight, and Coco, she gonna bow up on you
Oh.
if the vibes are off. Coco will, she's not having it.
Mm.
But because she's from the streets. I don't know.
She
So-
got it from Monica, I feel.
Yeah.
Monica seems very sweet until
Oh,
he pressed
yeah.
the wrong button.
Yet
Monica is of the streets, girl.
Yeah.
of the streets.
Mhm.
You don't want to mess with Monica or Coco.
Yeah.
But Coco and Teddy have never ever had any kind of scuffle or like
Oh.
a situation. And Teddy can be so annoying. And I'm like, Teddy, leave her alone. Cause he'll be like, hey. And sometimes I'm like, God, she's about to pop off and punch him like with her paw. She'll punch him, but she doesn't. Usually when we're yelling at him, she's just like this, and she's like, okay.
She lets it. Oh, that's
She lets it.
sweet.
So, but I'm like, but who am I to say that they are in a romantic relationship?
They might be.
But
Y'all
together?
isn't that love?
Y'all might need to have a wedding for Coco
No, I
and
don't want
Teddy.
to. No,
Would
I don't
you do
want to marry
that?
Teddy off
Mhm.
because what if he just wants to be a bachelor and love up on Coco sometime?
At some point, he has to settle down, though.
Yeah.
That's
They need to have kids. They need to buy a house.
Y'all aren't having kids. What the fuck?
It's a gay wedding.
Mhm. They're straight, so they gotta procreate. Listen, we're trying to have babies in America. The government's gonna give them
Where's my
$5,000.
$5,000 for my dog?
Well, they need to get they need to get in that bedroom and fuck.
Well, Teddy's
Oh,
snip snip. So I don't know what to tell y'all.
Yeah, Jimbo's balls are cut off too.
No.
Oh
Nope.
well, I guess
No
He's all right,
balls.
so. Are there non-binary dogs?
I don't know. This is too.
I'm sure
this
there
is
are.
why there's too
I'm sure
many
there-
questions.
I'm sure there are.
Oh, stop.
So anyway, so Woody from Woody and Wilcox is going to a dog wedding this weekend. So
Out of town.
yeah.
I love it.
So that's what happened to me today, just after the show. In the 20 minutes after the show ended, I was accosted the Diddy party and the dog wedding. I'm like, all right, well, this is a Friday at iHeartMedia Charlotte.
Yeah.
And see, you find content everywhere, including at work.
100%. So anybody have anything else before I dig into what I was gonna talk about, which isn't as fun and as funny as this?
Oh, it's
Mm.
one of those podcasts.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
okay,
It's not.
okay.
Not. There's
Oh.
no politics today. No politics today.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay. Well, to be fair, if we want to say for a second, I have not been keeping up.
That's
I'm
best.
even a few
Well.
days behind Heather Cox Richardson's emails, which
Mm.
that's what is keeping me abreast. Because again, I will promote her to the ends of the earth. She does a great job of keeping you abreast of what's happening, one paragraph at a time, linking it to historical details. And so I like them because I feel like that's the truth and not a bunch of social media claptrap. So I like that. But I'm a few days behind even with that because I'm just
Maybe you should just delete the emails from
This
this
isn't a
week.
good week.
Yeah, I'll just wait till next week.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Next week, yeah.
Just
Just
a good one.
it's fine.
Cool. Anyway,
Well-
so none of that. I don't even know.
So in the prep that we get every day, I saw this and I'm like, we're trying to be light and fun on the air on our radio show, but on here we can get sad. So there was this article today said 3 sad ways the millennial midlife crisis differs drastically from Gen X's.
Oh, good.
Speak on it.
Ready for it?
Womp, womp. Let's go.
Actually, hold on. I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm gonna tap dance y'all for just a second.
Okay.
Oh.
Tap dance.
I'm
Well,
gonna-
as an elder millennial,
Mhm. Oh yeah, can
I
we define
sometimes-
what those ages or what those
I
years
will pull
are?
it up right now. But yes, ages of millennials.
I've said this in I'll just say it, a reality show interview.
Mm.
I had talked about how like my generation has had the worst. We had the fucking housing crisis, the housing crisis. We had COVID. We had Trump. We had all this shit. My generation. And then I'm thinking like, actually, maybe
Actually,
not.
I mean,
Actually, there was
technically,
Vietnam and
the
Right.
Vietnam,
World Wars.
the Great
and,
Depression,
Great Depression,
and
right?
people were jumping out of
But
buildings.
you feel it so
and-
personal because you
Right.
live through
You
it.
do.
But it
I do-
technically
No,
not
yeah.
the worst.
I do appreciate the people that were like, coming up in the 70s, like the 60s and 70s, where like literally still black men were being like dragged through the streets and people had to
Mhm.
deal with that.
Yeah.
And they're like, listen, you just keep moving. You just
Right.
anyway. So millennials are born between 1981 and 1996. So let's see. They would currently be between the ages of 29 and 44. And the term elder millennial is sometimes used to refer to the older part of the generation, roughly those born between 1981 and 1985, who are now in their late 30s to early 40s.
Mm.
And there is that small gap of like what they call the Oregon Trail generation or the Xennials,
Mm.
where it's that elder millennial thing where you had an absolutely analog childhood and then a digital teen and 20 into that. So, because we are different. Like I was born in 82. And so my upbringing was a lot different than Kelvin's, obviously, even though we're both considered millennials. I sometimes do relate to Gen X because I'm so close to that cusp.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, this is they're saying in this article, the 3 sad ways the millennial midlife crisis differs drastically from Gen X's. Millennials are officially hitting middle age, and yes, that means midlife crises. But theirs looks different from the stereotypical sports car and spontaneous tattoo kind of crisis Gen X might have. For one, 81% of millennials say they can't even afford to have a midlife crisis. They're too busy trying to pay rent, keep a job, and deal with student loans instead of feeling trapped in success like past generations. Many millennials feel stuck in survival mode. They're not making wild, impulsive purchases. They're just trying to figure out how to afford groceries and maybe some therapy. It's not about reclaiming youth. It's about clinging to stability.
Yeah. I would say
the gap has widened between the have-nots and the other side.
it has, yes, only kept getting deeper and deeper.
Yes. COVID
So-
fucked that up, and I'm assuming the 1% has influenced that. Companies have not lowered their prices.
The advent of the internet and
I can't believe that there was a time where you could afford rent, not worry about it, put money aside, and then buy a home.
Right.
How can you do that now when rent is $2K and up? If you want to live somewhere decent, at least I could easily live 30-40 minutes away from Charlotte and afford an $800 apartment easily. I could, but like, do I want to be in those neighborhoods?
Right.
Before it wasn't like that. At least I'm assuming, right?
Maybe. No,
I don't know.
it wasn't. I mean, it was
I think,
affordable to.
Right.
I mean, even. Well, okay, think about it. A lot of wages haven't changed, and so
that's the point, because
you
things have
could
gotten
still-
more expensive.
yeah. So if you're still making the same amount of money that you were making, I mean, like when I think about my apartment that I got when we first moved to Tampa in 2015, and my apartment that wasn't in I wanted to live downtown but couldn't afford it, so I had to go out. So if you're from Tampa, you'll know this reference, but if you're Charlotte, not. But the Gateway area, my apartment at Ibis Walk at the time was $1083, and I was like, this is so expensive. Like, this is nuts. I have a friend that lives there now, and I think he pays over $2,000
At Ibis?
at Ibis Walk, which was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's, and so probably if I had lived there, and we had the same job, I didn't have a lot of pay raises, but my rent keeps going up. And so then where do you get that money from? Okay, I got to pull back on my 401k. I got to pull back from my rainy day fund so I can afford just to live. And that was already pretty far from where I wanted to live. So then, like, where do you go? So that's the part where it's like, you can't afford to have a midlife crisis.
What are we define? Do they define what a midlife crisis is, or are they defining it in the course of this article?
So I kind of messed myself up here, and I ran it through ChatGPT to like give it to me, like to sum it up, because this one prep service we use doesn't do that.
It does not.
But it kind of muddled it all together, so that's why I'm
fine.
like,
Okay, well, I was just curious because I have a feeling midlife crises have changed as well. And anyway, thoughts on that later. But go ahead.
Okay, so they're saying when you imagine the quintessential midlife crisis, you likely picture someone in their 50s dropping thousands of dollars on a fancy sports car, getting an unexpected tattoo, or even quitting their job. Yet most millennials can't afford extravagant purchases, and they certainly can't afford to lose their paycheck on a whim.
Right. Okay.
So that's what they're describing.
Yes,
as.
and I would, first of all, I think the definition of a midlife crisis has changed significantly.
Right.
So that's one difference as well. Go ahead.
So this is number 2 on this list. Millennials feel stuck while Gen Z felt trapped. In the past, many people who experienced midlife crises did so out of a feeling of complacency. Perhaps they were married, owned a house, had a family, and felt trapped. Maybe they dedicated the last decade to their job only to discover that they were still unsatisfied. Many millennials, on the other hand, have not yet achieved stability, financial or otherwise. They feel stuck and maybe even left behind, unable to reach significant life milestones like buying a house or starting a family. And I have some friends like that who, when a lot of us, like from my specific part of millennials, I graduated college in 2007. And so I had a year before the financial crunch happened. But then I had a lot of friends that did graduate in 2008. But even then, that stalled us really and like getting along in the industry, because when the financial crisis happened, we were in Panama City, and also the oil spill happened. And I remember we were supposed to get a raise, but we didn't because all of that was going on. And so then we were kept at that. And so those sort of things start to compound. And so now that we've reached the age where you should have X amount of dollars in a 401k, or you should have a 401k, you've been delayed by all these things. And so you, instead of feeling like, man, I'm making $300,000 and I got this house and I want to do something different, but I can't. Now you're like, I just want health insurance and I'm 40. And that's the difference.
Yikes.
Yikes is right.
Yep.
And then the last one here, instead of addressing existential questions, millennials are just worried about the future. Many past midlife crises were born out of an existential dread and a fear of their mortality. But people who are struggling to afford rent, keep a job, and pay off student loan debt do not have time to question the meaning of life or their purpose on earth. My dad is a quote. My dad was trying to escape the doldrums of midlife with blonde hair. Meanwhile, I have friends who can't escape a bad marriage because they can't afford the rent in a new place by themselves, especially if they want to keep their kids in the same school.
Mhm.
Now we're not exactly staring out the window of our country house, finally remembering our salad days. We're still grinding it out, worried about losing it all.
Yeah. So just previous generations, by the age that we're at now, were like made in the shade.
Right.
They had achieved everything that society told them to achieve. They had been doing it for a while and they were bored.
Right.
And they were also like, oh my God, is this life? Is this the end of we're just going to do this till we die now? Like,
Right.
and I think you also tend to, and I think this is true for our midlife crisis too, is you start to think like, who am I really? And am I doing what I really want to do and not just what society told me to do? I think that kind of bridges the gap, that line of thinking.
Yeah, because I think once you are, I mean, Holly, you and I are perfect examples of this. Like, we've been doing this job. I'm close to 20. You're at or a little bit over 20. And once you've been doing something for so long, there are some days where I'm like, damn, do I want to do something else? I don't know. Like, I love it.
I know.
But
you start to think like, so I have like half my life is over.
Right.
And there is a little existential. Like, I don't think it's true that like every single millennial just can't afford to think about the rest of their life. Like you do. You can't make moves on it like they could in the past, but you still do feel those feelings of midlife where you're like, holy shit, half my life really is over. And then maybe not much you can do about it, but you do think about the fact that like, who am I?
Right.
Is this who I thought I would be? Do I actually want to be somebody different?
And I think that's what I've been thinking in my head as I'm getting close to 40, as I'm like, all right, there's like another 20 years, 25, 20, 30 years of working, you know, am I going to be doing Queen City Confessions in 20 years, in 15 years, in 10 years?
You had said 30 at one point, which no, I don't want to. I don't want to.
No.
You pull back on that number
70,
real
bitch.
quick.
Oof.
Okay.
But can we afford it?
In
we get
20
there?
years, do I want to still be doing blown off?
What's that gonna sound like?
I don't even know.
Do you go to an easy station? You guys can't be top 40 forever.
No. Oh, we used to joke in Tampa that we were on Hot 101.5. And then eventually they would move us to Magic, which was like the hot AC. And then eventually they would just move us to the Dove, which is like, you know,
the AC, the easy
it's called
listening.
the Dove. Okay. The
Right.
Dove.
Yeah.
And we would just post up there at the Dove. So I don't know. What do we have in Charlotte? The lake? Are we just going to be?
But they don't have any DJs on there. So.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, listen, in some markets, girl, they have the top 40 station got the same morning show they've had since 1995. So, I mean, you know, we work for iHeart, girl. If we making money for the company, they ain't going to put us nowhere.
Yeah, then somebody can pay for my Botox and I'll still look young. It's fine.
And then, Kelvin, I do want to get your perspective of someone who, you know, is 30, but I do want to play this video real quick, and then we'll get to your perspective as someone who is 30 and is sort of looking towards these things here in the future. I saw this. If you are in the same sort of age bracket that Holly and I are in, I saw this video last night on TikTok from, you know, everyone's been talking about Mel Robbins has had this like just ascendancy to pop culture, the let them be theory in the book and all that stuff. And she specifically was talking about people in their 40s. And I thought this was really interesting.
Your 40s aren't a finish line. Your 40s are the launch pad for the next decade of your life. That's what they are. It's where you can truly launch forward in your career. You can do something new. You can build on what you've learned, the mistakes that you've made. That's why the 40s are incredible. And by the way, the other reason why the 40s is really fun to do is because everybody around you is so distracted, typically raising kids, or they're engaged in their career, or they're doing other things that nobody cares what you're doing. So you can do anything that you want. And that is super cool. I mean, that's true about all the decades, but in the 40s in particular, you're going to notice people don't care as much. And you're not going to care as much either. And here's another statistic that I want to give to you. Maybe things haven't worked out because you're supposed to do your own thing. Maybe your 40s is where you take that interest that you had, or that side hustle, or that thing you've always imagined doing, and you actually launch your own thing.
So I saw that last night. Oh, not all my stuff up there.
Not all your emails.
Nope.
I saw OnlyFans subscription renewed. Ooh, you nasty. Nasty. Who was it?
Nobody, and I'm not subscribed. I ain't giving nobody my money just to see your naked ass.
No, if you think Miguel would pay somebody to see something, no.
Absolutely not, girl. I will hunt some free stuff down. I ain't paying nobody to see their naked butt body. I got a husband, okay? I can see a naked body at home for free.
You ain't blind.
That's what we got Twitter for. But I saw that last night, and I immediately thought about, I've always wanted to open up a restaurant.
That's true. You haven't talked about that in a hot minute.
I haven't. Well, just because I was like, man, this is just like it's a hard thing to do that. But that's something that's always been in the back of my mind. Back in the day when I was young, I always wanted to like own a magazine. That's not happening. I wanted to
magazine.
Newspaper stand.
Okay. I wanted to buy a radio station. That's not happening. I wanted to own a media company. We're not in that. That is not for someone to just have a startup. It's possible in like the podcast space, but I feel like a restaurant is like my true passion. So I've thought about that last night, and hopefully if you're in your 40s, that'll spark something that you've been thinking about, but never really thought that it was realistic. Something to think about.
Yeah, definitely. Like something that's been tucked in the back, maybe. Give it a little light.
Kelvin, so you as a person who is 30, about to be 31, how do you feel sort of hearing this as people that are about 10 years older than you?
Terrifying a little bit. I am always told that 30s are your best. You know what you're doing. You have a little bit more money in your pocket, and you're still young enough to do stuff. And now you're telling me that at 40 is when I could just switch it up and change things? I felt like at 30, I was going to have a home, like an actual home, or a house. I have a home, a house. I was going to own property, and I was not going to be worried about, my savings account, my 401k, and those kind of things. And that's just not where I'm at. So yeah, it's a little bit scary. But I don't know. I'm really weird when it comes to my career right now. I don't know where I'm going to end. And that to me is a little scary, because for me, I skyrocketed in my career rather quickly. And then I changed up what I thought was going to lead me to the next level. And I did reach that next level. And now I'm just kind of like, okay, well, what do I do next? What's next? So all in all, to say that is that when you've reached what you wanted to reach, what's the next step? And I didn't really think that far. So that's kind of where I'm at. I kind of know the solution of what I need to do. I have to educate myself and kind of resharpen my skills, because what I know now from what I learned in college 10 years ago and what I've worked within these years, I've got to kind of level up. I just don't know in what direction.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm in a really weird limbo. I'm not happy with, how the economy is right now. What financial steps I can do next, I'm kind of limited. So I'm in such a really weird place. But I kind of know the answer. I kind of have to get up off my ass and do something about it. That's really the solution at the end of it.
I understand that. I felt like when I turned 30 and I was 31, 32, when we were like probably a year or two into Tampa and to Hot 101.5. And I remember like my goal up until that point was to host my own morning show in a top 20 market. And I remember once we got to Tampa and after the first few months, friends and family were like, so what's next? And I was like, bitch, I don't know. Like, I have been grinding my entire life to get to this moment. Like,
Let me enjoy the moment.
I don't even know. I still can't pay my bills right now. So let's get over that hurdle and then we can figure out what's next. And so then once through lots of years, lots of working, perseverance, got through some comfortable financial footing, Like I feel like when I bought my townhouse, Chateau Oprah in Tampa, and I was like, and I think it was right after I met Abe, and I remember because he had just started his painting business, and so he was like had a fluctuation in cash, and he was just trying to like cover his life. And I'm like, hey, I know we just got together, but I do this like summer cruise every year with my friends. And he was like, well, I can't afford it, so I can't go. Yeah. And I was like, but I really want you to go. And I was like, I'll pay for you. And he was like, this was like a 2-week long, like, he's like, no, you're not paying for me. I don't feel comfortable. And then once we talked it through a lot, and I was like, well, listen, if we're in this for the long haul, back and forth. And so then I was able to pay for my cruise and his cruise. And I remember telling you, Holly, I was like, I feel like I'm comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have enough saved that I can like pay for a vacation for 2 people and not be like, well, can't eat for the next 6 months. Like, and I think I was 34 or 5 when that happened.
Right.
And so then that is when I started to go, okay, so what's next? Because I get really anxious and I get really like.
Miguel has what we like to call the wanderlust.
Yes.
Very much. I've known this about you for a long time because you I don't know if it's you always and forever are pushing yourself to do better and do more and have new experiences because you get bored, or what exactly it is or where it comes from. Probably multiple places.
Yeah.
But after a while in one place, Miguel starts to get that itch. He's got the wanderlust where he wants to go see what's next. And I'm not so much like that. So
she's a workhorse.
Usually I am a Capricorn. Okay. I am steadfast, determined, and I will just put my head down and I will just do my job. And I'm a Pisces moon, so I'll be emotional about it. But Miguel is always the one that's like, after a few years, he's like, well, what do we think? And I'm like, I don't know. I just got comfortable here. I got to do a good routine. But Miguel loves to see what's going on.
Me and Miguel had a laugh attack the other day because he came out with this strategy for social media. And then I thought about it and I was like, wow, that's very detailed. I was like, you fucking bitch. I know exactly what you were doing when you came up with this. He was at his kitchen table or something, hands crossed, and he was just looking down going... And I think there's a meme. Of a little kid doing that going, and I feel like that was what Miguel does. He was just doing this.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know that's how you came up with it.
Yes, but the arm like Lydia Cole.
Yes.
Just like my grandma,
just looking down and thinking.
Yep, that's exactly.
Yes, just like that. Just like that. And I was like, you bitch.
And he's good at talking people into things, by the way. Like when he wants to, Miguel is such a great salesman. But you have to really believe it. You have to believe in it to be a good salesman, which I guess is the point for all salespeople.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so you always are looking for the next. Once you kind of get your footing in a place, you're one who might get bored and want a new challenge or want to discover a new place, make things harder for yourself. I don't know.
No, I think that is I think because I think it's probably a defense mechanism, and there's probably a better term for it. I know there is a better term for it.
Maybe it's like a trauma response.
Yes, a trauma response to just sort of being fight or flight a lot growing up, where I was always in a like, well, what can I do to make this situation better? What can I do to make this situation better? And I never had a time where it was just like coasting. I was always like, oh, something's going to change. Something big is going to happen. So you got to be prepared. You got to be ready. And so I'm always, I think I was just grew up used to, all right, some shit's about to change. Something go down. And so when things get too comfortable, I'm like,
I think that's the trauma from Denver.
Yeah.
Moving from Denver to Atlanta. And so it put you on edge about like, well, nothing good could stay, so I'm just gonna plan for the next thing.
When did you start believing in the things that you started to not manifest? I don't believe we manifest. We manifest, but then there's also the other section of like we worked hard to get to where we are, and it happened. But when did you start believing in the things that you were wanting to do and accomplish? Because I find myself not believing anything. Because I've been let down so much in my life from not only my parents, but also bosses. They've promised me things and it never happened, whether here or in Miami. And so I've found myself to not really believe in anything, even if we're at a good place right now. I don't believe that it'll happen. And so I sometimes have a lack of interest sometimes in a lot of things. I'm in this new wave right now where I have accomplished this weight loss, and it's made me believe in a lot of things now, and also put me in a place to just go for it when it comes to socializing, because that's always been an issue of mine. But lately I've been in a really good, not anxious, I'm just gonna fucking go for it. Why not? I'm gonna get on the stage and say something. I have no anxiety.
Oh, that's good.
Lately. So I wonder where did you let go of that? I'm assuming you went through that at one point. When did you start believing in yourself?
I've always had wild optimism. Like when I look back at myself and read my journals from middle school and high school, I just always knew that the universe was going to put me in a path to entertain or to inform or to inspire somehow. I just always knew. And so I always thought to myself, and even as a kid, which is wild to me.
Given your upbringing and your environment, by the way.
Because there was nothing, how I grew up, that telegraphed to me that if you worked hard enough, it would happen. Because my whole upbringing was just struggle. Never any footing where you're like, oof, okay, we can finally rest.
Right.
I just always knew it was going to happen, but I just always said, I need to be prepared for when that moment arrives. And so I think that's why I always, like, when I had a big stuttering problem growing up, and I was like, I want to be on the middle school TV announcements every Thursday, and I want to do the little radio, and and everyone was like, girl, that was pretty rough. You struggled through that. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just come back again next week and I'll just do it. I'll just try it. And then by the end of, I remember a teacher pulling me aside at the end of 8th grade and being like, I have to give you so much props as a kid, because the fact that you came in here for 2 years and you struggled through announcing and reading on air, and now you have a smooth delivery, you can do anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, bitch, I got this.
You're kind of like, I know.
Oh, yeah, of course. I knew I would.
I'm not like taking away from your mom, because obviously she provided for the things that you needed, but you were pretty much independent, right?
Yeah. I mean, outside of like, clothing,
right,
shelter, stuff like that. But when it came to opportunities, or like, because my mom had never done it. And so she didn't, like, perfect example of like when I was like, I want to go to college. And I remember being in the car with my mom and I was like, I want to go to college. And she was like, all right, well, how do you do that? And I was like, I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
Right.
And I went to teachers and guidance counselors, and I was like, how do you go to college? What do I need to do? So like most of my life has been me, and this is no slam on my mom. It's just that when you don't have the experience, you don't have the experience to guide someone.
Right.
I just had to figure it out. And so I think that's why I've always been so independent, is because I was like, I have to do it. So senior year of high school, for spring break, when everybody was in Panama City or Destin or wherever, I was at my part-time job researching FAFSA and like figuring out FAFSA on my own. And being like, Mom, I need your tax records. And she was like,
for what?
Why? What do you mean by?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's for FAFSA. And she's like, what's FAFSA? So it's like, I've just always had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I guess when you add that into like me wanting to better myself, I've just always been like, all right, here's the goal. How do I figure out how to get there?
Right.
And so that so much of my personality has applied to the show, where I'm like, all right, like I told Holly at one point years ago, I was like, we're going to make this amount of money. And she was like,
I was like, Miguel, I can't see it.
No.
Miguel, I said, that is wild to me. I would never have even thought that.
Like, I think at this time I was making like $24,000 a year.
Yeah, we were making like low on the low.
And I was like, no, we will.
And I was like, well, that sounds fun. Like, literally, I was like, that's just not possible. It's just not. I never even considered that, because I just felt like it wasn't a thing that I could do. And then we did.
And it's like, oh, look, we can eat lunch and we can like do things.
That was Miguel's big thing, by the way. He always wanted to eat lunch. He always wanted to make sure he could buy a lunch. And if it was a special thing, then buy someone else's lunch or whatever. That was like a big, he's like, I will know that I've made it when I can buy my lunch every day and not feel like I'm going to die.
That's literally, listen, that's one of the things with our financial advisors. We're like looking for ways to like cut so we can save more. And she was like, well, what about all these lunches? And I'm like, I'm sorry. There are a lot of things I'll give up, but that is not one of them. It's not like I have $30.
Some people don't understand about lunches with you.
Right. I'm like, that is my thing. Like that to me. And I promise you, I'm not being facetious. At least once a week when I go and buy lunch, I'm like, wow, 24-year-old Miguel would look at you and be like, bitch, you fucking did it.
I know. Do you ever think about, like, okay, so I'm obviously in the Tampa building, but even in the Charlotte building, you guys we're up on the 3rd floor. I'm on the 6th floor of the iHeart Tampa building, and it's beautiful, by the way, lovely. It was as recent as I think 2 weeks ago. I don't know what made me think this, but I was leaving work and I came down the elevator, all 6 floors, and I walked out, and there's, it was a beautiful day here in Tampa Bay, and I thought to myself, oh my God. I think I was like grumbling about something, but then for some reason, some part of my brain was like, do you know that 23-year-old Holly would be like, you get to work on the 6th? Like, all I wanted was to work at a major radio company and take an elevator to my job. Like, that's all I really wanted.
Upstairs.
I just wanted to go up to some floor in a big city. That's all I wanted. I remember because I worked at a tiny ass market in Findlay, Ohio, which was the corn, whatever. And I remember I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with my job then, because they made me the promotions director with 0 training. And I'm like, how do I do this job? So I decided on my own terms, I was going to go to I was working for Clear Channel at the time. I was like, I'm going to go to Clear Channel Cleveland and like shadow their promotions director because I don't know what I'm doing. And when I went to Clear Channel Cleveland, they were in like outside of Cleveland, up on like some 3rd, 4th, 5th floor somewhere. And I remember I got into that elevator to go up and I was like, this is going to be me. And I'm going to have like a gal pal and we're going to go to lunch or whatever. And then I had to go like slink back over to Clear Channel Findlay, which was in an old dentist's office. So like that wasn't cool. But as I was walking out of this iHeart Tampa building, I was just like, holy shit, I need to stop my complaining about whatever it was I was grumbling about that day. Because 23-year-old me was desperate for what 43-year-old me literally has every single day. That's such a cool thing. So I just wanted to share that story really quick about your younger self thinking, wow, look at you. You're really doing it. And Miguel, you're so good at having these goals and thoughts and, thinking about reaching higher. All I wanted was a fucking workplace with an elevator. I didn't even think about money.
Like I just want an elevator.
I just want to go in an elevator and with my like work bag and feel very professional. So anyway.
Well, and I think too, for you, Kelvin, something to keep in mind, I'm sure we've said this before, but it's always worth saying over and over and over again. And we'll end with this is Holly and I both had the same life coach for a little while, Angela Pirelli in LA. And she told both of us separately and together that think about the goal that you want. So whatever, if that's a house for you and Oscar, or you want Los Yappers, your podcast, to be making you $100,000 a year, or whatever that goal is, make little decisions every day, every week that get you towards that goal.
Okay.
So it's not like, all right, I'm going to go out on the streets and start selling my podcast to advertisers.
Because it's overwhelming.
Right. But it's like, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to do a live show. I'm going to try to do a live show with Oscar and I by the end of the year. What little things can we do to get towards that goal by the end of the year? Because she always said that like a big ship, cruise ship, you can't just turn left or turn right.
Right.
You got to make little turns.
Yeah.
And so think about that. Or like when you're weight loss, you did little things. You did a bunch of little things that led to the big thing.
Yeah.
And so you think about that for any goal that you have in your life and use that, and that'll get you to where you want to be. So to me, that's my focus every week on the show. I always say, what little but big thing can we do this week that'll get at least one more person to say, ooh, this is my morning show, or I need to go tell someone else about this morning show or podcast that I listen to.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
So when you start approaching life like that, it'll get you to where you want to be.
And just as a tidbit, the way that she explained it to me too, is like life happens, right? Like every day you're not going to just be working towards your goals. Like you get hit with a doctor bill, or you get hit with like who knows what. Life happens.
Right.
And you can find yourself months, years in, and suddenly you're like, wait a minute, I'm off course.
I've coasted. Mm-hmm.
I've just kind of coasted, and I was surviving, right?
Mhm.
We were surviving, and you got kind of off course. It's never ever too late to start making those little turns in the right direction, because once you get off course, it's not like you have to stay there. And that's what I took a lot of comfort in, because my life has gotten off course several different occasions.
Right.
And so you just, instead of being like, oh my God, I can't, like, you're just like, okay, all right, now that I recognize I'm off course, little change.
Yep. Be intentional.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yes.
Be intentional. Whatever decision you make.
Yeah.
Doai said, that's how I got my house. Small step by small step. And I eventually got my house and moved. Now I need to start planning for renovations.
Right. And that's how we do big things. Like I just replaced the roof on my house.
Mhm.
That was before I bought the house. I was like melting down because my mom was like, you need to buy a house. And I was like, what if I have to like replace the roof? Who could afford such a thing? And literally last week I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from that conversation to now was like 10, 12 years, but still like I was able to do that thing.
Right.
So I encourage everybody this weekend, take a moment and think about what yourself from 10 or 15 years ago would say to you now, and be like, bitch, you did the thing in whatever form that looks like for you.
Yeah.
For me, when I go get lunch today, I'm going to think about that.
Yes, you should. And when I walk out of those elevator doors, I'm going to be like, so excited.
Kelvin, how can people find you on social media?
At Kelvin Live, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.
Holly, how can people find you on social media?
Radio Holly on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok.
You can find me at Miguel Fuller, Instagram, TikTok, Peloton. We will see you all on Monday. Bye.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Catch it on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you listen.